Old faces.
All right, Coach, we'll open with a brief statement and then we'll take some questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see most of you again. Some of you new faces, but first of all, I want to congratulate Coach Roby and the wrestling guys. Great job winning the ACC tournament. I'm anxious to watch the Nationals this weekend. Also, Coach Duffy, their postseason bid. Good luck to them in the WBIT. Awesome to see both those things happening. We just finished up phase one, our winter program. A lot of time in the weight room, a lot of time in the indoor, several 6 a.m. workouts. Pleased with how phase one went. Coach Ferg and his staff, their efforts been outstanding. Very pleased there. The competition, the new talent, excited about all of that. It's time to get on the field. So tomorrow is on us, and the guys are excited. The coaches are excited. I'm anxious to see everybody working at the football piece of it together. The coaches, the transfers, the high school additions, off-field staff that we've added. It's just good to get everybody out there doing our thing. So couldn't be more excited, and I'll take some questions at this time.
You mentioned all the new faces and new coaches and new players. Will it have a different feel this spring in terms of not necessarily introductions, but getting on the same page on the field? And do you view what you're trying to accomplish in the spring as maybe different of a more veteran team like last year?
The spring to me is always a reload. It's about fundamentals. It's about guys, identifying strengths and weaknesses. It's about understanding schemes, attempting to master your craft. Do we have more questions this spring than last? Certainly. As thorough as you are in evaluating talent, whether it's a transfer or a high school player, there's still more to know once they're on your campus. To get a closer look at these guys and how they can help us, how quickly they can help us, that's a big piece of it this spring.
I think since the last time we talked to you, you did some more staff shuffling, brought some guys on board, Brent Davis and tight ends. Can you kind of go through those different moves and the logic behind them?
Yeah, Xavier Adibi had gotten more involved with the rule change last year. He's an experienced linebacker coach from playing it, from coaching it. Just brought a ton of value as we were able to allow him to coach more. He really shined, and I was impressed. And I think the players took to him. I thought Caleb and J.K. played much better down the stretch, and I think Xavier had a lot to do with that. Sean Quinn, we've added more responsibility to Sean. He's one of our stronger coaches, and he was coaching that star position. We've added another element to it. He's got both the outside spots, which he has experience there. And then the ability to double down on Stu Holt's time and investment in special teams. I thought we were pretty good last year on teams. We can be better. And taking the tight end responsibility off of him and putting it on a very strong veteran coach in Brent Davis made too much sense to me. And then, the addition of the new hires, Jens, Cannon, Jira, Brian, Mason Baggett in strength and conditioning. Very pleased with all those things right now. Appreciate Whit Babcock's support, Dr. Sands, to be able to do some of the things we've done, to reinforce our staff, give us the best chance to coach these guys up and get them playing to their potential.
Brandon, another hire you've made since we last talked to you was Trey Nyer as Director of Player Personnel. What stood out about him in the hiring process, and do you see him, shaping his staff?
Yeah, Trey was already on our radar before we hired Matt Moore, and and then Neil Brown and I are pretty good friends, and Neil, what Neil had to say about Trey had the traits and characteristics I felt we needed in that department. We've done a pretty big overhaul up there. I think we've recruited at a pretty good level, but I want to see an uptick there. And I think some of the things that Trey can bring, that he has brought, is going to help us do that.
There's been a lot of talk about spring moving forward. Is there going to be elimination of spring practices, move everything to summer, leading into camp? And a lot of people are now talking about, like, hey, look, we like spring. We like getting these guys practicing, and I think you've spoken about that as well. What do you see about the spring moving forward, and how valuable is that to give the fans an opportunity to see this team in April, give them a glimpse of the future heading into the season?
Yeah, I like the current model. With the transfer portal windows, to me, that's what can affect the whole thing. I think that's why some coaches out there, and to each coach, what they feel is best for their team. But here at Virginia Tech and for Brent Pry, the traditional spring practice is what I think works here, works for us. I love the idea of the spring game in the stadium with fans, game-like situation for our players and coaches. I think it's a valuable experience that I think helps our team grow. But, to each his own. I think moving forward, it just depends on these transfer portal windows. That's what makes it very challenging, to have a true idea of what your team can look like before you head into the fall. So we'll see where that ends up, the windows.
Can you go over any position changes since last season, especially on defense, where we aren't quite sure what the scheme's going to look like or even what the positions are at this point?
So what was the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
Any position changes since
Any
last season?
position changes? There's been a couple. Not necessarily because of the defensive structure. We're going to be multiple on defense. You're going to continue to hear that word. That to me is advantageous for us. There'll be elements of what we've done. There'll be elements of the Minnesota Vikings from 2021. There'll be elements from Wofford. There'll be pieces from Penn State. But the idea is to be multiple and play to our players' strengths. I don't know that there's necessarily a position change. Caleb Spencer is going to move inside rather than play in that alley to the field. I think that plays to his strengths. We're going to give Devin Alves a shot at wide receiver. Talented guy who came in as a corner, hasn't really gotten on the field as a safety much. He's had a good winter. Offhand, those are the things that jump out the most. But, we've got some things we're playing with a couple of the additional D linemen, end to outside linebacker based on the structure we're in. Ben Bell, James is that way. Asen Stevens a little bit, Burgos. We're putting a little more on those guys, which I think is good. So, yeah.
Last we saw Kyron, he was pretty banged up with his leg. How is he looking physically this spring? What kind of expectations or what do you want to see from him growth-wise?
Yeah, first of all, physically, he looks back to form. In these winter workouts, we do a lot of competitions, and he was very tough to beat. Didn't matter who I put him against. Sled push, agility drills. We challenged him each and every morning, and he was hard to beat. He's one of our best workers and had probably the highest win percentage. So I think he's back in form. I think he's confident again, largely because he's healthy. He's a guy, I think, again, I'm so excited about Coach Montgomery and what he brings, not just to our team, to our offense, but to that room, to Kyron. I think a big key for us, obviously, is for Kyron to play well and to be more polished, to be more balanced, throw the ball down the field a little bit better. And, so I'm excited about that. I think Kyron has all the potential to do that. And I think Coach Montgomery has us in the right direction.
what's it been like? So many new faces, integrating them in this winter phase. How much have you enjoyed that? And you guys like wearing name tags to make sure everybody knows who everybody is?
First of all, you got to be thick-skinned. They figure that out pretty quick. We give each other a pretty hard time around here. We have a lot of fun. You have to in the grind that we're in. But, we've got that type of team, and we're welcoming as coaches and players. And it's been that way. You bring guys into a room to compete for jobs, and the guys they're competing with are putting their arms around them and showing them around and, hanging out with them. And, it's been that way for the coaches and for the players. I'm very proud of that. I think it's something that's special about our place, Virginia Tech, and our program, that it's just a warm place. It's a friendly place. And it makes that transition easier. I think that's one of the reasons some of these guys want to come here. They feel welcome. They feel at home. So that doesn't stop, once they get here.
What have you noticed first couple months with Coach Ferguson, strength and conditioning, and how the guys are taking to him
Yeah.
and how he's working with them?
He's always been one of my favorites back to, it was so long ago that I was here in the mid-'90s, but there's certain guys and traits that really stuck out to me. And his mental and physical toughness was to be remembered. And it's something that we were missing, something that we needed to be better in that area. And he instantly has brought that to us. He's got tremendous respect from the players, from the staff. He's doing a great job organizing, leading. I really like the staff. I think we're getting the most out of our staff right now. Mason Baggett's been a great addition, polished guy that was a head strength coach. So I'm pleased with what's happening in that space right now.
Brent, we usually ask you coming into spring, is there one or two position groups that you want to see improvement in? But with so much overhaul and with two different coordinators, is it every position group that you see it's open for competition, there needs to be improvement at each level?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. There's certainly more spots with jobs on the line, more competition, but I also think we have more options. When I look at our team top to bottom, we're just a better roster than we've been to this point. And that's a couple cycles of high school recruits and as much retention as you can have these days there, which I think we've done pretty well. And then the additional transfers and the type of young men they are, the skill set they bring in. And then the development, like I said, these high school guys that we've recruited, this is their team now. The Caleb Woodsons and the Aiden Greens, and these guys have come up in the program with our values, and they have the voice now. So I couldn't be more excited about that.
Has there been any player, whether it's a high schooler or a transfer, who's come in and you said, wow, we hit early indication, or we hit the nail on the head in terms of evaluation, what he can bring to the program?
We've lots of agility right now, lots of speed and explosive training. But I'm not disappointed in anybody. I think we're pretty much in the ballpark of where we hoped we'd be. Ben Bell was a guy that's got a really unique skill set. I'm excited to see that out there in pads, but in winter conditioning, he was everything I hoped he'd be. We've got to transfer it to the field, but a lot of guys standing out right now. I think, we changed our model a little bit, and we devoted an extra couple weeks to the strength and conditioning aspect before we started our hunger drills, and did just 2 weeks of intense early morning training, what we call our hunger drills. Gave us a little more time to put some mass on, to get these guys ready for spring. So right now it looks like it's been a good plan.
Let's go middle of the room for Nick, and then we'll take a couple on Zoom.
A lot of coaches have their own ways to allocating or assigning numbers to the players with so many new transfers. How does that process go for the guys? Do they bargain, or do you guys kind of settle that debate?
I've had the roster list with jersey numbers on my desk for 3 days, and I've got about 50 text messages. I get it's important to these guys, and so I generally, I told them I'm not assigning any numbers till we get through with winter, because you're going to earn numbers. And so just the last couple of days, we've put numbers on guys, and the first thing I'll tell them tomorrow is that this doesn't have to be permanent. can lose a number, you can earn a number. But I ask the guys to give me their 3 or 4 top choices, and I try and put them in one of those if I can. So, spend more time on it than I should, but it's important to them.
All right, let's take a couple on Zoom.
Hey, Coach. Sam Jesse, Sons of Saturday. In regards to the previous question about spring practice and the future of spring practice in college football, fellow ACC coach Fran Brown and Deion Sanders have been talking over Twitter about a possible scrimmage out there in Boulder. With how it looks like spring practices might be going, if you get a call from another coach, let's say Deion Sanders, about, hey, we want to scrimmage you guys out here in Boulder at the end of spring ball, is that something you have to at least entertain and at least think about going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to say it. We would entertain that. Again, I like the traditional model right now, but as things continue to evolve, if it's good for Virginia Tech, if it's good for us, then I'd be open to it.
Any more questions on Zoom? Send it back to you, Travis.
All right, any last questions for Coach in the room? Andy?
Is there anybody you know won't be participating in spring practice? From
Yeah,
the season
yeah,
start?
it's a good question, Andy. We've got a couple guys that will be out the entirety of the spring. Brody Adams, Jeff Overton, and Gabe Williams. And we've got some guys that will be limited, at least to start. Tucker Holloway, Jeremiah Coney, Marcellus Hawkins, P.J. Prelude, Jordan Bass, Tyler Childress, and Christian Williams. All those guys will have a chance to get to full, with the exception of Brody, Jeff, and Gabe.
With so many new staff members, 2 new coordinators, what has the winter and now going into spring ball looked like in terms of figuring out how you're going to coach stuff and implement stuff? And, obviously, so many new faces on that front. Just how you guys are kind of going to teach it.
Yeah, I don't think there's not a lot that would change there. I believe in our process and what we're doing. Our winter program looked very similar. I think the way we install, where we lift, where we spend our hour allotment, that didn't change much. I think you've seen more guys come by on their own for extra time with the new coaches, do some of that, getting to know each other. We've had coaches, maybe take guys out for a bite to eat more often to get to know them. We devoted our Wednesdays the entire winter to team building sessions. Coach Quinn headed that up for us. We had help from the core, and it's been really good. We've doubled down there, and I think it's the right thing to do for us, and I think especially with the new additions. And that's been not just players, that's been staff involved. So everybody getting to know each other a little better. But as far as installation and the way we structure the calendar and the schedule, that's not going to change. Okay, appreciate everybody.
Hi, how are y'all? Good?
This being your first spring here, how do you approach it? What do you want to see? What would be a successful spring coming out of this in your eyes?
You know, I think for us, I want to see great effort. I want to see attention to detail. I want to see guys get a full grasp and understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. By the end of spring, are we going to be 100% polished in there? No, I'm not expecting that. I want us to be able to touch and feel a lot of different aspects of the offense so that we have it on tape. We can coach off of that, you know, because of the rule changes that we have now in college football. We get a little bit more time with them in the summer and leading up to fall camp. So being able to kind of get through a lot of aspects of it, throw a lot at them, we'll see how they handle it, and then see how fast we can kind of progress through it.
I wanted to ask, what are your early expectations after seeing these guys through the winter and not getting a chance to work with them yet, but seeing what they can bring to the table and how you can envision using them in the offense?
Yeah, I'm excited about the guys that we have on our roster. Love the way they're working right now. I think they're very much excited about what's going on. I think all of us are ready to get on the field and actually do some true football things and get a chance to, you know, start growing as a unit, as an offense, and as personnel. So I've been very, very pleased with their competitiveness as we've gone through our drills in the summer or in the winter. And now I'm excited to step on the grass with them.
Is Kyron as good of a building block as you could have at QB position to help build the offense around in your mind, estimation?
Yeah, I think he's done an outstanding job. As we've sat through meetings and been able to start talking ball and installing, I think he's picking it up well, as well as, you know, a lot of the other guys offensively. You know, this thing won't be all about him. You know, it's about us as a unit and what we can accomplish as a unit, and it's 11 guys paying attention to details and executing on the field. So obviously a lot of it starts and stops with him, but I could say the same thing about the offensive line. It all starts and stops with them as well.
Coach Pry rattled off the list of guys who are either unavailable or limited. It doesn't sound like you have a ton of healthy running backs for the duration of spring. How do you adjust with that? And who are you looking forward to seeing out there at running back at full strength, I guess?
Yeah, I think we've got some new faces in that room. I think we got some guys that are hungry to kind of prove who they are and what they can do. You know, from that standpoint, I think it's kind of the next man up mentality. Obviously, guys getting reps in the spring is going to be beneficial for them. And their understanding of the offense and how we can use them and put them in different situations. And so all of those guys have picked up things extremely well. So I'm excited to see what they do as we step on the field tomorrow. We need to stay healthy throughout spring in that room because, again, we are shorthanded a little bit there. But that being said, I think some guys will start trying to work their way back, and we'll see if we can get anything out of them before spring's over.
Hey, Coach. I'm Brooke,
Brooke.
from Channel 10 in Roanoke.
Hi,
Welcome
Brooke.
to
How are you?
Blacksburg.
Thank you very much.
Coming in, we haven't talked to you yet. We've talked to Coach Bry. He kind of gave us an idea of what we should expect from you in the offense you're trying to run, but how would you put it in your own words, and how do you kind of toe this line of you can't throw too much at these kids right away in the spring, but also you really want to make an impact early?
Well, you know, I think as you start trying to describe us offensively, we'll pull from a lot of different experiences of mine, places that I've been, all the way from my high school days to where I am now. And so I think it's always a learning process. I'm trying to learn every day, and so when you get an opportunity to come in and install something new, you get an opportunity to kind of work some of the kinks out that you had in some of your old stuff. You get ideas from new people in the room. We've got a bunch of really talented coaches in the offensive room, and so being able to take some of the things from that and being able to, okay, how do we apply it to what we do now? How does it fit? How does it gel? And so I think there's a lot of different influences to what we're going to be able to do. Most of it's going to be built around what our personnel is able to do. And so I think the most successful offenses are built that way. You know, you look at our quarterback and what he has in his tool belt to bring to the table, and then you look, okay, we got this guy on the outside, we got this guy inside, our offensive line, this is what they're really good at. And so I think as we combine all of those, by the end of spring, we'll have a really good feel of who we want to be, the direction we need to head, and then we start adding and building according to that.
Philip, I want to ask you about, there's a lot of talk about spring games and are they going away? Are they staying? As a former head coach, you ran a lot of those. What do you think about spring games? Is it vital to a program and to let fans get a chance to see the team, I guess, the midway point during the offseason, try to build some momentum and some excitement going into the season?
You know, I think it's great from the excitement standpoint, especially for maybe a few of the recruits and the families and for the fans around. If I'm completely honest, as the head coach, by the time we got to the spring game, I just wanted to get through the spring game healthy. I felt like I had a good idea of where we were as a team, our strengths and our weaknesses, things that we knew we needed to work on in the summer and fall camp leading up to it. You know, with college football landscape, it might be, hey, might need to be searching in the portal for something here or there that might be a deficiency that we found that we weren't able to address. And so spring games are great for the fans. I think the guys enjoy it from the standpoint they get to really get juiced up for that part of it and get a little bit of fan experience with it. I think it is great for the younger players. Guys that haven't been on the field and been in that environment, I think it helps them kind of start taking the steps and understanding what that's going to feel like when you get there on a Saturday. For your older guys, I think more times than not, you're just trying to make sure they stay healthy and get them in, get them out. You know, it's been great. Coach Fry has done a great job of building a great foundation, establishing a culture, and this accountability piece that we've really worked hard on, especially since I've been here and got to be a part of it. You know, it's really, there's so many facets and things changing today in college football. Again, you got a lot of new faces in the room, and so it's hard to care about a guy and understand who he is and where he comes from if you don't know him. And so really it's about getting to know your teammates, getting to know the coaches on a much more personal level than, hey, this guy plays receiver and he's from this town and this is the things you can look up on the internet. I mean, it's really getting to the heart of who he is, his why, his family, all the things that kind of make him click.
Anything on Zoom for Coach Montgomery?
Hey, Coach. Sam Jesse from Sons of Saturday. As you come into this new role here at Virginia Tech and trying to establish some new philosophy, especially with a veteran quarterback like Aaron Jones, how do you communicate some different ideas, different schemes, maybe different use of analytics, things like that, to a quarterback who's had a couple offensive coaches over his career?
You know, I think for him, he's been very open about, what we're going to do offensively, how he's going to fit within the offense. I think that goes for everybody that's been in the room. I think he has an excitement level about it, and we're going to continue to keep working and forming and gelling that thing together. But I think there's a lot of different tools and a lot of different avenues that we can help him continue to improve and help us improve offensively. And so he and I have had great meetings and great conversations, and we're continuing to grow together.
Any more questions on Zoom? Good, Travis. All right, any final questions for Coach? Last one, Ian.
Your son joined the staff as a coach. What's that like? I think he's been on your staff at a couple different places. What's that like with him in the room, and what is that relationship, or working relationship, like in the room there?
Yeah, it's been good. You know, he played for me at Tulsa. More importantly, he's an outstanding young coach. He understands what we're doing offensively. He's played in it, been in it. He's gotten his own experiences away from me, and so for him to be able to be here and join this staff with us, I think it's a great opportunity for him to grow, but he's a great asset for the room. And so young guy that's growing and learning every day, but he's hungry and he knows how to grind. And when we're in the room, he's not my son. He's just one of the other coaches. And then when we go home, just like he was at a player, then we can have that different relationship. But when we're at work, it's work. He's used to that.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, questions for Coach Cephas? Start with Andy.
Andy's always first. Yeah.
Ask the same thing on Coach Montgomery. What in your mind is success in spring ball look like?
I think the biggest thing is just getting better every single day. You know, individually for the players, and then collectively as a defense, and then obviously as a team. You know, I'm a pretty day-by-day type of person, so it's whatever the next step is. And for me, I told the defense this today, can we just get better on the next rep? If we can do that, then we're going to start to build on top of that.
Sam, I wanted to ask, in terms of creating the scheme, what do you want to get accomplished this spring in terms of identifying with the players what you want this defense to look like heading into the season?
Yeah, you know, part of what I told them today was, you know, one of our philosophies is adaptability and being able to mold what they're good at to, you know, who we're about to play and how we're about to play them. And so I think the biggest thing for me is figuring out over these next, you know, 15 practices is, you know, what can we do really well and what do we need to improve at, and where does, you know, our multiplicity lie in the blend of who we're going to be from, you know, my past 15 years of being with different defenses.
I wanted to ask, two new hires came in.
Yeah.
One guy who played for you at Wofford, Jair, bringing him into edges, and coach you worked with at Wofford, Brian Whitehead at nickel.
Yeah.
What about them and their experiences and working with them and coaching them that you felt, okay, they can be a great addition to the staff?
Yeah, you know, I think number one, especially being around Coach Pry and the mentality he has about, you know, kind of blue collar and you know, our work ethic, those guys embody a lot of those things. You know, Jairo played for me, obviously at Wofford, and was a heck of a player in his own right, but he embodied those things, and you know, he's one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. Take the football piece of it away. And, you know, Brian, he's kind of always been the type that's just, he always gets stuff done. You know, my dad used to tell me all the time when I was growing up, just don't be the guy that doesn't get things done. Just find a way to get it done. And that's kind of what Brian embodies, and I appreciate about him. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, X to the Z, as I like to call him. I don't know if he likes that or not, but X has done a heck of a job so far. He's very detailed. I think he gets the players really well. All of the players really admire him and the path that he's kind of gone through. And I think there's a mutual respect amongst him and obviously the players. And so he brings a little bit different voice, which I think is appreciated in that room. I know I've leaned on him and allowed him to kind of make that room into what he wants it to be. I think that's important for position coaches to have that type of autonomy. And he's done a really nice job of taking what my vision is for the defense and obviously what Coach Pry wants as a team, and he's been able to embody that within the inside linebacker room. So. Yeah, we're going to try to have some things that are similar to last year so they can kind of compound on some of the things they did well and what I felt like they did well, and obviously what Coach Pry felt like we did well. I spoke a little bit about this. When I first got to the NFL, I worked with Mike Zimmer, and I felt like he did a really good job of encompassing a lot of who I am today. And so I think a lot of that shared vision will kind of be implemented, at least at the start, with kind of who we are foundationally, because I think it has streamlined into what they have been in the past and kind of who we could potentially be in the future. So I think the roots will be somewhere in there from my knowledge being with him in 2021. And then, I've been a part of almost every type of scheme humanly possible, which is kind of to my benefit, but I think we'll grow and branch out from my experiences there and just kind of see where the tide takes us. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very eager. Number one, to see the guys that maybe didn't get quite the opportunity last year to be able to showcase their skill set and where they've grown. But number two, obviously, there's some guys in the mix that have transferred here that I think will do a nice job and be able to compete. And so, they're gonna. I told these guys today, the advantage that everybody in this room has is that I'm new, right? And so I don't know if any of them can play or can't play, right? They have to prove that to me on a day in and day out basis. And so, there's the guys that have played a lot of reps here, but they also have to earn that from the get-go with me, no different than the guys that maybe transferred here, or the guys that are incoming freshmen, or guys that maybe have been backups. So that's the benefit, obviously, coming in and being new to the situation, is it allows for guys to find and carve roles and get a fresh start. And I think that's beneficial for a lot of those players. Yeah, I've never been very black and white on you have to do this, you have to be in this alignment, you have to be, with your hand down or this foot forward, or, I've never been big on that. And my biggest thing is, on a whiteboard, things are black and white, they are. The board is white and the marker's black, but the world we live in is gray. And I think that's how I've always coached inside linebackers, is things are never going to be black and white. And the best linebackers that I've ever been around understand that things change in an instance. So if you're not prepared for that at any position, DB, linebacker, defensive line, it's going to be a hard time for you to be able to play, because, things happen. Guys get cut out of gaps. Linebackers misfit something. A safety doesn't do the right technique. Like, that stuff happens in the game of football. How can we react and be able to play to that and help ourselves? And so I guess, digressing from the point, like, I'm not going to tell them that they can or can't do something until they show me they can't do it, is probably the main thing.
Any questions on Zoom for Coach Seaver?
No questions on Zoom, Travis.
All good? Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, special teams has always been my niche. That's what's, kind of kept me employed over the years. So I always had a great interest in it and enjoyed it. I love coaching offense. I love working with, I'd worked the running backs here and the tight ends and enjoyed working with those guys. I think this is where it's going. I think with all the changes in college football, particularly with the staffing, you're going to see more of, the NFL model and, having a special teams coordinator devoted strictly to the kicking game. And so it's exciting. That's an exciting portion of it is really getting to evaluate, the part that I've loved really this offseason is being able to evaluate the defensive guys more so than I have in the past. I really just see those guys whenever we would interact in the kicking game, and that would be about the only time unless we did something, pre or post practice. So I think that's going to be a big benefit. And just having more guys to help, more staff guys available. So I think that'll be great as well.
I want to ask you, heading into the spring, you have some comfort with John, Kyle, and Christian
Right.
back. How much does that help hit the ground running with those guys' experience at those positions?
Yeah, I think it's always great to have experience. You want guys that the moment's not too big for them. So having guys that have done it in the game will certainly bolsters confidence amongst the team. And then you're looking at Nick Velsistis, having a chance to punt now. He's waited a long time to do so, and so now he gets an opportunity to do that. And I think that probably gives him comfort having guys around him that can certainly help him prepare for the moment.
Yeah, with Nick, he seemed to be Peter's understudy for the last couple of years. How much did it help being around a guy like that, Peter Moore, who probably one of the best punters in terms of average at Virginia Tech history?
Yeah, I think Pete, he ended up being second in Virginia Tech history and had a great career. I think Pete would tell you that Nick helped him a ton. Nick, there was always competition. Nick pushed him to the limit. Every time that we went into a camp, into a spring practice, into a fall camp. So I think that, Pete certainly helped Nick in his preparation and for this moment, but I think Nick helped Pete a lot as well. It's always healthy to have competition.
Coach Pry mentioned Tucker is going to be limited here at the start of spring.
Mm-hmm.
At the punt return position, with Jay Lane now gone, who do you see possibly stepping up into that role until Tucker's ready?
We're going to work Takai Heath, who's always caught balls for us, caught punts for us in the past. Jamari DeLoach is a guy coming in as a freshman that's done it in his high school career. We'll also look at Aiden Green, who's has worked back there. And we got Donovan Green back there catching a few balls. So we've got several guys that we're going to take a look at. We're excited to get Tucker back, a guy that's set records here and done a great job, being one of the top guys in the country. We've been very blessed the last 3 years with the guys we've had back there catching the ball. So we're glad to have Tuck back. However, we've got some good options. Mm-hmm. I think when we first got here, he was a young guy trying to figure it out. A little bit immature in his preparation, maybe not quite understanding the day-to-day that's needed to do it at this level, and really decided, he just took it upon himself and decided that he was going to reach his potential. And I've been very impressed with how he's gone about his business the last couple years. I just the growth in him, and a lot of it has been mentally, but you also see quite a bit physically as well. He hits the ball really well. He's worked very hard on his mechanics. Spent a lot of time with us and then also away from us, working to improve there. So I think he just decided that he was not going to look back with any regrets, I believe is really the best way to put it. And so and I'm glad he stuck around. There was certainly opportunity for him to leave. He could have. It's so easy to walk out the door now, and particularly if you play a position where you only play one guy at a time. I fully expected him last offseason. I thought, man, he's going to walk in here and decide that he wants to go somewhere else, and you really couldn't fight him for, on that. But he decided to stay here and stick it out, and so we're glad to have him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's pretty common for all the specialists. There's so many of them out there, and there are a ton of talented guys. For me, over the years, you're looking, obviously, talent is a given. You're trying to find a talented guy, but you're really, what sets apart most guys is how they go about their mental approach. And if you feel like they're going to be calm in the moment, you feel like they're going to go about it on a consistent basis, like I mentioned with Nick, you're trying to find the best guy that can fit there. And then oftentimes you're also finding a guy that's willing to do it for free. With this new model that's coming up with the rev share, and now we've got NIL. I mean, that has changed that landscape. But like a lot of things, the specialists are usually the last guys to get recruited. I think the way rev share and NIL is going to impact that position is still yet to be seen. I believe there'll still be guys out there that are doing it for little money, and so that model, we'll see where that all goes. But that process, to answer your question, there's a lot of guys out there, and so for us as coaches, we pore over it to try to make sure that we're bringing in the right guys, because it's a limited number on the depth chart, right, and on the roster. So there's a lot that goes into it, but the talent piece is pretty easy to pick out. It's the mental aspect that really puts guys over the hump. Right. Yeah. It's a big portion of our spring, because our issue at kickoff return really didn't have anything to do with the guy carrying the ball. It was more so we had some costly penalties. In particular, if you look back, we had an opportunity against Clemson. I can't remember the circumstances why they were backed up, but we knew we were going to get a big opportunity for a return, and we ended up getting a couple holding calls that negated a return. And the opening kickoff against Duke, we took across the 50 almost. I think we were down around the 40, 35, 30-yard line, somewhere in there, also negated by a holding call. We've got to get better technique-wise, and that's something that we can emphasize and we will emphasize this spring. Last season, if you look at the statistics of, and that's what special teams is all stats, right? The four core, field goal percentage, extra point percentage. If you add it all up, we were tops in the league. I think we were right 4.66 is our average position, out of the 17 teams. But kickoff return was our worst. And, you take out, if we could negate those penalties, we certainly would help our offense and where they're starting that drive. I mean, that's obvious. But then also statistically, we would have been much better. And so that's an area we spoke about this morning in the special teams meeting about, that's a big emphasis in the spring is we've got to eliminate those costly penalties when they show up.
You've always liked having a running back at kick return, but it seems like the running back room is going to be a little limited this spring. Who do you see back there as kick returners? Is it going to be Thomas Williams, who used a lot last year, going with a few different faces?
Yeah, Thomas will get the first shot at it. I thought he did a nice job for us for the most part. Tough guy. Has a background as a running back, even though he's playing corner here. Cam Selden is a guy that we brought in as a transfer, and he'll get an opportunity back there. And then we've got, several other guys. You mentioned there's some other running backs. Jeremiah Coney's been back there some. Tyler Mason will get an opportunity. There's also some other skilled players that will be in the mix. We do a bunch of drills in the spring, a bunch of competitive drills where we get to look at a ton of guys. And that's really has a lot to do with how we landed on Thomas, because he did really well in the drills in the spring, the previous
previous year.
Yep. Yep. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
It's nice and cool in here. Keep everybody awake, right? Happy March Madness, happy spring football. It's really exciting with all of our spring sports going. Football getting geared up for their little mini season, and then for us in postseason, just a great time here in Blacksburg to build some momentum, and couldn't be more thrilled to be still playing in March with our team, and we're looking forward to our game coming up on Thursday versus North Carolina A&T. Hi, Mark. I think we were disappointed. Obviously, I think we had a small chance to get in. There was, last 3 weeks of the season, we were in and out of that bubble area, and a little bit at that point, you're watching games and leaving it up to the selection committee. One of the things we talked about 3 weeks ago was we're not going to make excuses. We're going to own our season and the great victories with it, some of the mistakes we made along the way. And with us building our program from the first year, you want to really pull out those positives. And would we love to be dancing in our first year? Absolutely. But I think there's some great value and momentum into continuing to be able to practice with your team and get some game experience in March. It's such a unique time of year when you're one and done, and there's a little bit more added pressure. So I think while we were disappointed not to hear our name, we understood the process, and I think we had a committee that was doing everything in their power to do the right thing and put the best teams in the field. And we were taking that accountability with whatever happened. We were going to be ready to move forward into the WBIT or obviously to the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. I actually didn't look too much into what was said in the media or the committee. They got some great people on that committee that do an awesome job, and I think we couldn't spend too much time dwelling on the decision. Our coaching staff went to work immediately. The WBIT bracket came out, and we went scouting and downloading games and dividing and conquering to get our team ready to go. I've learned a lot from this year, and a little bit, is about how you approach, summertime all the way to the end of the season. It's always been a goal in postseason to play your best basketball in that February and March, and putting together with our young players that mindset of what it looks like and what you have to do to be successful. And even next year, every year is going to look a little different. So there's been so many lessons. I don't think I've probably gone into too much reflection other than every day, every week, we're trying to have real candid conversations about how to get better, how to improve, how to counter something that's happening. And very much it's a life lesson for all these kids. And then, as a coaching staff, we're really excited about continuing to learn from those things and keep moving on. Mm-hmm. I think we had some great conversations and some great practices even after the ACC tournament, where it was about what do we want this next 2 weeks to look like before we had the opportunity to play again. And, we couldn't control anything about where we were selected or where we were going, but we could control our attitudes, our mindset to get better. We had a great couple practices with it being spring break here. I got to give the girls some time to either go home or just, kind of relax here in town and really refresh their minds for this next big push. So that was valuable just to be able to spend extra time with them. And then, our mindset moving forward, regardless if we knew we were going or the after, the Sunday evening was to have really good quality practices, work on ourselves a little bit too. whether that was, offensively, being a little sharper. We had some, little scoring droughts throughout some games, over the course of the last few weeks. So really trying to figure out what it looks like to get out of those droughts, and then even defensively, some different things we can do. So I know the kids always want to play games. The coaches love the practice part. So we tried to find that happy median with continuing to push. And I'm just really proud of them for just, it's a long season with basketball. I mean, some seasons are in the fall or in the spring. Our season is incredibly long. And, looking back to, that May, June time when we were all getting going to now, it's been long in a lot of ways, but it also flies by. So trying to find that mix and balance, and it's been great to coach these young women.
For such a young team in so many ways, how valuable can this stretch be for them, both practices and the games?
Yeah, I know even our opponent, North Carolina A&T, they had a tough, I would say, maybe upset in their conference tournament, and so they obviously had a great regular season, and so this is a really good team that's coming in Thursday. So we have to approach it like we've tried to approach ACC play, but everybody's really good, and then you throw in the one and done. And so what I'm looking for, especially this week, is just to show some growth from that Georgia Tech game and just being a little bit more settled in. Obviously, we have the advantage of playing at home in front of our crowd and getting Hokie Nation out to see us at least one more time. And I think there's a mindset of we want to win the tournament, but at the same time, our success has been really taking it, a couple days here at a time, and then try and execute on that game. But, to have young players in these new roles, and even, somebody like Matilda and Rose, who are seniors, they want to finish the right way. They have a lot of basketball ahead of them in their future as pros, and just garnering this experience is critical for our entire program.
Coach, can you scout North Carolina A&T for me and what you guys expect on Thursday?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Sunday night, as soon as you know who you're playing, it's almost all-nighters. I always joke, like I never had to pull an all-nighter in college. And then when you get to be a coach, there's some weird, crazy hours, and we were in our war room dividing and conquering, and, you're talking 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning with just trying to figure out the game plan. And one of the things about Terrell's team, just very well coached. He's a great man. Like, he's had a lot of success with this program. He goes out and he's not afraid to play people. So even in their non-conference, he goes out and plays some really, really good opponents. They're tough and hard-nosed, for, maybe, a program that's, that mid-major level. Sometimes you'll see some smaller size kids. They're big. They got a 6'4" kid inside. Their guards have good strength and size. And so physically we're going to get challenged. They're known for their defense. He switches up a lot of different things to kind of keep you off balance. And then similar to us, I think they have a really good balanced attack. So all 5 people on the floor for us are going to have to defend and make sure we're ready to go with great energy in our building.
When the committee chairman chairperson was answering me on Sunday, one of the things she mentioned, aside from the quad 1, quad 2 record, or the record in the last 10 games, or the Syracuse game, she mentioned the non-conference strength of schedule. Is that something that you will kind of actively try to improve upon, or do you feel your non-conference strength of schedule was fine the way it is? What's kind of your thoughts regarding the future and the non-conference?
Yeah, I talked about this, I think, back in the fall. When you take over for the first time, some games are already in place, and so you're locked into a contract for another year, even moving forward into next year. And then some of you have the opportunity to, obviously select your games and your MTEs. And I think what's interesting with, springtime, rosters are changing. You honestly don't always know what your team's going to look like next year. And sometimes scheduling is done before you even know what your team is like, let alone getting a new head coach. So, yeah, we're going to look at all the facets of what it takes to be a tournament team. Obviously, having our players return is really, really important. And that's when that committee gets in. There's a lot of different factors. I think there's maybe 11 of them. And I think the big thing is having that balance with non-conference of getting wins. Teams that are going to set you up for ACC play, and then that grind of ACC is something different, just as a lot of the P4 conferences are going through. So you have to find that balance of, finding, that non-conference, strength, and then also finding confidence with your young team. And every year will look a little bit different for us, and it's actually, with everything going on in our business and our world, scheduling is actually happening kind of a little bit slower because people are still figuring out who you're going to have so you can make educated decisions, which I always think about, being here in the football space right now. You got games years in advance and the rosters are constantly changing. So it's another reason, an example of how it's challenging for all of us coaches to figure out that perfect formula. But I do know we're always trying to learn and, get feedback. And that's something that I'll do a little bit more once we're done playing. Right now, my job is to lock into our women and getting ready for Thursday. But I do like some of the analytics of it. I like, hearing opinions. But in the moment of what we have to do, I need to stay focused on getting our team better.
You mentioned the grind. Given your record in the last 10 games, how do you feel the team, handled that grind? And especially now that you have more games to play, how do you feel they will kind of handle that going forward?
Yeah, moving forward, we got the rest. Spring break really helped us. We had every opportunity to win some of those games down the stretch. You look at the 2 overtime games. You look at even, Syracuse when Rose was out. We were still trying to kind of figure out what that looked like. And again, you're splitting hairs, 1 possession, 2 possession, make a free throw, catch the ball, and it's a different maybe outcome this week. So again, you can dwell on it and focus on it. I think what's great about our team, we've been able to speak on it. Not be afraid to own what we've done, and that's why you're not going to hear me rip another conference or another coaching staff or another program. We're here to speak positively about Virginia Tech, and I'm so proud of our team, and I hope we'll be really excited and thrilled to play on Thursday.
With players already planning to enter the transfer portal, how do you balance playing in March along with preparing for the offseason and the transfer portal opening up?
Yeah, it's a really interesting world and dynamic, even a little bit even different than last year. So, we're just trying to open up lines of communication, find that balance of staying focused on, our team in preparation. And like anything else, whether it's the portal or, it's another issue or concern any one of our players or our families have, we want to be open to all of that. But it's an interesting juggling match right now. And, there's already a phase of the portal that's opened up for women's basketball with grad kids and coaching changes. And then, this time next week, a week from today, the portal for undergrads will open up. And, yeah, we're all trying to find that balance to stay focused and what's important, but also understand there's a business side. And I wish I could tell you the perfect formula with it all, but we're, I think, learning and growing every day with it.
Brian, any questions on Zoom?
Go ahead, Connor. Connor Arthur, Virginia Tech Television. Coach, first of all, congratulations on your invitation to the WBIT. Very exciting for the team. I just wanted to ask, since the ACC tournament, it didn't really go as planned, but is there a lesson that you kind of took away from that game that you're hoping will be applied to help bounce back in the Invitational?
Well, I think I mentioned a few minutes ago, I think the rest has really helped us of just being able to step away for a few days over the spring break and, find that balance of working on ourselves. And then now we're preparing for A&T. I think the other thing that's been fun in a positive way, we chose to watch the selection show together. And it's okay to feel disappointment sometimes in life and kind of use that as a chip on your shoulder or fuel, and whether that's for games this week or, moving on into an off season. So I've loved the opportunity to be open about what March Madness means and, the ability to watch games and see what, there's some really, really amazing women athletes right now, especially in our game, who are talking about what it means to be a dog and stepping up in March and just that feeling of nothing better. You got St. Patrick's Day and March Madness and all the things colliding to, just really understand. So it hasn't been like a weird thing that we're like, we don't want to talk about it or we're nervous. It's like, let's go see what it's about. And let's, obviously get our seniors, in a good space going in their last few games. And then let's build some momentum. So I've enjoyed the part as a college basketball coach. There's nothing better than the madness of this time of month because anything can happen. Upsets are brewing. And even we understand that this week. Like when you play A&T, who's hungry, who had a tough last game themselves as we did, sometimes it's a matter of will and your focus to get the job done.
Any more questions on Zoom for Coach Duffy? Back to you, Carter.
this is a little bit of a different tangent, but last time we saw Samaya, she's not in a sling anymore. I was just wondering if you could kind of provide an update on how her progress is going. And you know, when she suffered her injury, you talked about having her as a coach still. What's it been like having her still around and involved with you guys?
Samaya's making some great progress. Obviously, she had season-ending shoulder surgery. And so obviously the first little bit of that time is tough. She's in a sling. We have to keep her away from all the action on the sideline. But yeah, she's feeling better. We're progressing really, really well. Obviously we missed her a ton this year with her speed and athleticism with what she did in non-conference. And you could see her just kind of grow into each game. And, you know, one of her best games, I think it was maybe her second to last game, if I can remember back that far, where it was the Duke game. And she just made a little run herself. And so we're excited to get her back. We still got a little ways to go with the rehab, but the fact that she's out of the sling and, you know, starting to progress with her rehab a little bit more is a really good sign.
You mentioned watching the selection show with the players. What was their reaction to the disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, we were disappointed. But we also knew coming in that no matter what happened, we were going to be obviously, you know, extremely pumped up if we heard our names, and then we were ready to you know, approach the next day with practice, and I think they handled it really, really well. We had off yesterday, and then we got after it today with our practice, and it was good. They were focused, excited about having an opponent probably now again versus you know, just practicing and working on ourselves. So overall it was, you know, what I expected, and we feel good going into the week.
Yeah, you mentioned so often in these type of tournaments, the bubble teams that, you know, men or women that are deflated, that don't get in, sometimes they're not enthused enough about the what tournament they are in, and they, you know, they lose first round because they're just not into it as their opponent. Can you tell? Have you got a sense of, you know, the enthusiasm level, the excitement level, you know, if your players are into it, into the WBIT?
I think we talked even weeks ago, whatever happens, we were going to be ready. And, you know, for us, yeah, it's going to be important to be focused. But I think when you look at the teams in the WBIT, they're good. You know, it's some of the, you know, one big conferences that if you had a slip up in your conference tournament in the 3 days or 4 days, you don't get into the big dance, but now you're ready to make some noise. So there's some really good quality teams. Obviously, even seeding, I don't think really matters too much in this type of tournament. It's, you know, it's a bit matchups and travel. And, you know, now on the women's side, it used to be a different tournament where there were 64 teams. Now there's 32 really good quality opponents. So we're going to be focused. And, you know, for me, we'll see once that ball goes up on the tip if they're ready to go. But we're not preparing any differently. We're working extremely hard, and they looked good at least today.